plan to articulate their economic programs, particularly in the development of the real sector.
The private sector, however, calls for attention to some points.
Import duty element protection of certain industries or certain businesses is essential, because every economy has to actually find a way of protecting its own ingrown businesses. That's fine. Now, there's also balancing. Now, we're in a recession and we're turning back from recession. Now, one thing I'll see is I would want to see in 2017, especially for the industrial sector or for the growth of other sectors, is for us to reverse this high interest rate. You cannot drive yourself out of recession if you do not work on an expansionary program. Now, expansionary does not happen when you're actually limiting liquidity. Now, so we have high interest rates in a situation where we have negative growth. It's not helping the situation. It's making it difficult for any industry to borrow, and the liquidity in the system is also very minimal. So invariably, we are very in an illiquid situation in Nigeria today. And that businesses are struggling, one, for working capital, not to talk of capital expenditure.
Beyond the private sector, the government reaches out to all Nigerians.
I call on all Nigerians to work with us to ensure we achieve those objectives. The contents of the plan are already familiar to a broad cross-section of Nigerians because it was developed in consultation with a wide group of stakeholders.
Also of importance is that the ERGP has 3 broad strategic objectives that will help achieve the vision of inclusive growth. They are restoring growth, building a globally competitive economy that's restoring Nigeria's economic growth, and laying the foundations for long-term development through a dynamic, agile private sector that can innovate and respond to global opportunities.
So the plan of improving growth is clear. The plan of investment in infrastructure by the federal government, investment in people, these are borrowing and other Eurobond and the rest, they are all tailored towards achieving this plan.
The third broad objective is investing in human capital by increasing social inclusion and improving human capital base of the economy, an area which entrepreneur Mr. YELE OKEREMI is very passionate about.
Any nation that does not pay attention to human capital development is a dead nation. You don't need to fight, and you don't need to throw an atomic bomb. You don't need to have any warfare with that kind of nation. And we see a whole lot of that. But this document says they want to develop human capital. That's part of what I said. I want to see the roadmap. And that's very important. I'm talking about developing human capital. Do you want to start from top down? What I mean by starting from top down, for example, you say people who are 40 or 50 years and below, or you want to start catching them young? I want to see the strategy. Because you see, it's also very important. It's fair enough sometimes for you to do things which we call in business balance, you cut your losses. What does cutting your losses mean? It means that you take a look at your situation and you say, given this situation, I cannot catch up for the next 5 years or for the next 10 years. But in 10 years' time, I'm going to be able to do X, Y, Z. And if I want to do this X, Y, Z, I need to take a critical look at people in this particular age bracket.
The ERGP also outlines 4 plans covering anti-corruption and transparency, public safety and security, population growth management, and social inclusion. The summation of the plan involves top economists, one of whom is a Nigerian Economic Summit Group.
The first thing we need to do is you walk the talk. There have been several comments that have been made. This government, for example, they've come on a mantra of change. I don't understand the meaning of change because it needs to be unpacked. But let's assume that they've come on an anti-corruption platform. And that's fair enough. Let's assume they came only on just that one program. It's fair enough. Governments anywhere in the world don't need more than 2 programs. When you're having more than 2, 3, you are going to derail. So let's assume you've come with anti-corruption as just 1 program. Then it's good enough. Then let us see the transparency starting from you. But when you come out and tell me that change begins with me, that's an insult. So if I'm going to trust the leadership, I'm going to trust the leadership that walks the talk. I want to see a leadership that shows transparency beyond reasonable doubt from their own quarters. And then how do you go about fighting corruption?
The ERGP is also built on social intervention programs.
The plan articulates up to 60 interventions and initiatives that must be executed and are completed within the next 4 years to tackle and remove impediments to growth, to make markets function better, and to leverage the power of the private sector. However, this growth is to be achieved without compromising the core values of this nation, such as discipline, integrity, social justice, self-reliance, and patriotism.
I'll be first to admit that the challenge of Nigeria isn't about plans, it's about seriousness at implementing our plans. At NESG, we have memories of some plans we've sat with government to develop, ranging from the 2010 to 2020 visioning and all the many things. So I agree Nigerians are frustrated in the sense that we always have good plans, but we never get to implement them.
There is no what you might call implementation or the execution and the monitoring of the execution, meaning that we should set ourselves some KPIs and sometimes timelines, meaning here in 3 months from now we have to do a check. 6 months from now, we have to do a check. 9 months from now, we have to do a check. So those check marks and what are expected and what kind of outcomes are expected from not just the economy, but from all the segments of the economy that have been highlighted in the document need to be clearly spelled out now so that we all can hold our government responsible.